So, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Peter Battalucco. I'm a retired Nassau County detective. I'm going to go into my history in just in a minute. And I've been retired. July was a year, and time flies. Time flies. So I'm trying a couple different jobs. I just landed a job. I'm actually doing armed security at LIJ, and which I'm very happy to be at. Plus, it's like 4 minutes from my house. So, what you're probably going to pick up from me today is my passion for what I'm discussing. All right. For the last 13 years of my career of being a detective, I worked in the child exploitation section where I handled with online solicitation. I posed as a young boy, young girl online back in 2005, and technology has it and kind of changed, and we had to move on from that with our investigations. I'm going to be honest with you, I've seen a lot. I can never unsee what I've seen. I can really never go into deep details of cases and stories. Thank God for a couple of reasons. One is I couldn't do that to you because I couldn't poison your minds. And thank God a lot of the stuff I don't remember. So I call that my way of healing. My brain is healing itself. Again, 12, almost 13 years of child exploitation cases. And then they shut down the major case part of where I was working, and they sent us to special victims. And I thought I saw some terrible things until I started dealing with some live victims, and I watched forensic interviews. And the two different kind of investigators we turned to each other says, "How do you do this? How do you do this?" And I heard that for so many years from police officers and other detectives that came in with cases. So you know what? They're out there, they're doing a great job. What we're going to discuss today is social media. All right? I'm going to be honest with you, back in the day when social media first started, I'm like, and doing the work that I did, I said, I'm not having Facebook, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. But because of my jobs, we had to have accounts. We had to build up different MySpace accounts and Facebook accounts, and we had to be proactive. We had to, be able to take on cases and know what we're talking about, and that was it. So as you see, social media, the air we breathe. Now, when I was asked to do this, and I sat down a couple of times, the older I get, I have found that there's only probably a few hours of creativity time in my day. So I try to pick the best times that would work for me. And I was thinking, okay, social media, it's so vast, it's so wide. And then I look at the audience, I say, well, these guys probably know a lot more than me. But I think the biggest thing that we could definitely say is it is the air that we breathe. And as adults, we can manage or we can learn from what we do, and one of the key words that we're going to use is respect. We need to respect everything that we do in our lives, especially social media. You as educators understand probably a little bit better than I do as far as how to deal with these young minds. And I learned so much in the times that I did it. So in my way of handling these cases, and I never thought I would ever do this kind of work, but I found it very rewarding, and I said this is where God had led me and wants me to do this kind of work. And so I remain to be a little passionate, and I still continue to carry around my soapbox as I'm standing in Long Island Jewish Hospital and saying hello to people, and if we happen to get on a topic, and I just go into my spiel. So with that said, let's move on. I'm going to have some videos because I find visual aids are awesome. All right. As I said, I retired in 2017. A couple things that I did, and again, this isn't to so much pat myself on the back. This is I want you to understand of where I'm coming from. My expertise was truly within this realm. Retired from Nassau County Police Department while spending about 4 years on the FBI task force. Myself, with one special agent and one Suffolk County detective, we made up the Long Island Child Exploitation Task Force. We were all involved with the New York State ICAC, which was the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. That's what some of the stuff that's out on the table. My buddy from Albany sent me a few things. I wish I had more. I wish I had some more of those bags to hand out. I just left a few of them out there for you to take. And one thing that I'm most proud of is I'm married, going to be 25 years this July, and I have 4 kids. They are my pride and joy. Listening to Don this morning, talking to my daughters, you have to understand something, and I think no kids are here. For 12 years, I had to get comfortable talking about penises and vaginas, okay? Some people are, oh my God, how do you You need to. I had to. And you know what? That helped me with being a father. I'm probably the one more than my wife that will have those talks with my sons, with my daughter. Thank God they listen. Do they test the waters? Absolutely. Probably about a little over a year ago, I did an 8-week program here. I taught au pairs that came in on personal safety and internet awareness. My daughter was just starting college at the time. She stayed home, she went to Adelphi, and all her friends went away. I had all her friends come and sit so they could listen to about date rape and listen about keeping safe and the things that are out there. All right, because you know the main thing is we need to speak. As Don was saying, you can't keep quiet. All right. So some things I would hope that we get today is self-awareness. My main thing for you guys is, listen, I'm an expert in certain things. Do I go on social media every day? No. Maybe there'll be a couple of times during the day I'll do just like everybody else does. Check out somebody's post, or maybe I'll post something. My posts are usually my kids, my dogs, and maybe a cigar smoke or something like that, you know. But the idea is we need to kind of gauge what we do. So I want you guys to think about, in your own lives, how do you use social media? You know, how is it making you feel? How is it, does it help you? Does it hurt you? Do you have those feels of, you know what, I have to know what's going on in the world? So I kind of go back and forth here. So I said, you know, your self-awareness, you know, how much are we posting? Are you posting everything? You know, recognizing how we use social media in our lives, and do we respect it and each other? By using social media, have we lost something? Have we, you know, the communication skill, definitely. I mean, especially with our youth today. You know, I can only text so much. You know, if people want to text a whole story and kind of get lost in it, just pick up the phone. It's a lot easier. I mean, but maybe that's my age, you know? So, no, we talk about, you know, motivational thinking and, you know, and parenting and family values. You know, I'm sure you hear about, you know, the days. Okay, so I'm in my 50s, so I did grow with Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Love Boat and stuff like that. And you look at some of the shows that are out there today. You know, and these are shows that either maybe I watched with my parents or my sister, and we got together, did our thing. And how many people aren't really doing that kind of stuff today? Big thing is Netflix too. So I have down here about rejuvenating your desire to teach children. It's very easy, and I have found it's very easy to get lost in it, and you deal with the same. Listen, it's different kids every year. It's usually the same groups, kinds of kids with the same kinds of problems. But they're changing. They're changing because of social media. They're changing because the content and the things that they're doing on social media, maybe they shouldn't be doing at the age that they are. I handled so many cases where I had parents come in and proudly say, well, my daughter, she's on Snapchat, and she's on this, and then she's on that, and someone hacked her account, and how old's your daughter? 10. Well, you're supposed to be 13, first of all. Technically, they put that out there. You're supposed to be 13 to build a profile, and there's a reason for that. You know, what is a 10-year-old mind? What are they going to think? How are they going to interpret what they see? You know, so we have to pick and choose what's out there for them and how we use it. All right, and do it. This is a big thing. Do we sometimes say, "Do as I do, do as I say, not as I do"? Show of hands. Did anybody ever do that? I do it myself. I actually learned a lot this morning from a keynote speaker. There's certain things, you know. I feel like I have to be the tough guy. I have to be for the family. And to be quite honest, first thing, no, I wasn't worried about how I was getting here today. There's something that happened to me last night. But every time that my daughters get into the car and they take off, call me when you're there, text me, lock your doors, and this is the world that we're in. And this is all connected. Can I maybe just see a show of hands who can agree with me that this is all connected? Okay, between social media, what we're doing, what we used to do, and the thing is, where are we going? That's really what I want you to keep in mind throughout the next few slides. Where are we going to go with this? How are we going to change things? All right. So social media, you know, what is it? Who's using it? Why is it being used? How much is too much? You know, what's it going to take? Maybe stolen identity. Maybe someone is hacking your account, or taking your pictures and making other profiles. You know, people don't go and they don't take your pictures and they use Photoshop and morph things anymore. They just steal them and they just make a complete different profile and do all kinds of nasty things. So, social media, online communities, we'll take it from the beginning, are online communities where users share information, ideas, personal messages, photos, and other content. So what do you think the other content is? Mostly, you know, pictures, videos, you know, and why are we doing this? You know, it breeds a lot of, I have found, jealousy, envy. You know, people always, and I just saw this when we were searching at different videos for this presentation, you know, people always put the best things out there, you know. Oh, the trip was so great, this and that, and that's fantastic. And, you know, I'm glad you enjoyed it, all right? So, going back in the way beginning, so in 1997, they were saying 6 degrees. The first social media website that came out there, which I wasn't aware of that. I just remember the first time that we got a computer, I think it was like in 1995. My brother comes over to set it up, and he had to wait like, I don't know, 5 minutes, 8 minutes to download one picture. So you could actually go like heat up your dinner or something, and it's beep, 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 it's, you know, coming up. So, and these days, everything is instantaneous. It's instantaneous gratification, which everything is so quick, all right? So, as I was saying, when I used to do my undercover stuff, one of the first profiles that we used was MySpace. And what we found was a lot of kids were using MySpace, but they had multiple MySpace accounts. Because we used to teach them, we used to say, listen, parents, go out there, you know what? Ask your kids. You don't know how to do it, don't say, well, I don't know. I'm not, you know, I'm not tech savvy, or I don't know computers. Well, you know what? It's some way of getting close with your kid. But kids would make up these profiles and these MySpace accounts, and moms and dads think that's theirs, and that's good. But they would have a totally different one that was all pimped out with all crazy stuff, and they were doing crazy stuff on there. Then came Facebook. Facebook really made a big change. So like in, I think 2005, actually 2006, Facebook came up. And we couldn't do that. We couldn't have like really like multiple accounts unless you had to build up how many friends. And you gotta understand, people that put so much information out there, kids that put so much information out there, they actually made it easy for us to kind of do investigations when we had to. Because, you know, if you confront someone and you say, all right, so tell me, sir, you know, how do you feel about this relationship you're in, or what are you doing, and how do you respect your wife or your girlfriend? And maybe they wouldn't speak. But if you look online, if you look at the social media accounts, it's like that hidden curtain. For some reason, they feel that they're really safe behind that curtain. And that's what kind of social media has done for us. So in everything we do, we always say there's, you know, the negatives and the positives in social media, and I guess in everything that we do. But, you know, the thing is, when you go back and forth, you say, okay, so what are some of the good things that we do with social media? You know, we can keep up with the latest drama. Everything is drama today. The shows. My daughters, actually my wife doesn't watch it, The Bachelor. How many bachelors are there? Is this guy ever getting married or what? I mean, it just, and then if that's not good enough with a rose and they go, next thing you know, they're in a pool or a hot tub and doing all kinds of, anyway. So it isn't a show that I really want to watch with my daughter. All right, so everybody wants to know what's the latest drama, and if you're not a drama mama, or drama dad, you're soon to become one. All right, buying and selling items on the internet. How many people did most of the Christmas shopping like on Amazon? All right, I haven't gone to a mall forever. I just put down eBay. You know, eBay is great. I've mastered buying, but selling I haven't. I actually had to have a friend buy it because I was selling something that was worth a lot of money, and I realized it wasn't going past like 99 cents. So he had to buy it. All right, but if you see, I go from back and I kind of line these up where you know, we have the positives and then we have the negatives. And I mean sincerely when I say here, so you're unable to censor what you see today. There's probably more things that you really, you know, you'll hear things on the news and you hear about these shootings every day. I'm gonna be honest with you, I probably watch the news for about 5 to 8 minutes, if that, because I am tired of hearing about shootings and killings and rapes and everything else. So I usually do it for the weather, maybe some sports, and as soon as I get into these other stories, I get sick. I can't. I have a hard time dealing with it. That might be from some of the work I've done in the past, but it makes me worry because our kids, my kids, your kids, the kids that you're teaching. So how much stuff do we really want to see? Okay, I talked about the selling. Has anybody ever had their identity stolen online? Okay, whether it's maybe your credit card swiped, or you constantly hear about these big companies that compromise. Hundreds of thousands of people have lost identities. Good chance of that happening. All right. As I said about the pictures that people post, sometimes they're great, and I don't know. I don't want to say all, but I think most people get caught up in it. I just did. So I had my big family trip. I had my retirement, and I had my daughter graduate high school. So we did a trip. We went to the DR, and it was great. And I'm putting this stuff on there. I'm like, does anybody really care? I mean, to me, it's beautiful. The water was beautiful. I'm proud of my family. But does anybody really care? Or how are they going to feel about it? So as I say, it brings you to places that maybe you would never go. But then when you see these, how do you feel about that person? How do you feel about what they're doing? How are their lives? So, and why? Actually, did you ever think about why are we really doing it? Is it for us? Or is it really for the people that are our friends, that are followers? So, education, employment, LinkedIn. Has anybody have gotten the jobs through LinkedIn? Okay, Indeed. I mean, positive stuff, great stuff. That's how I found my job at LIJ. I saw that, moved on. All right. Big thing here, having your private moments, pictures exploited. What we do and what we talk about and what we teach may be two different things. If you want to go and you want to send erotic pictures to your husband, to your wife, to your boyfriend, to your girlfriend, you want to hope that they're secure. All right. Again, not to be embarrassed, you need to speak to your children. And again, what I'm basing this on is if you can speak to your children, you get teachers as well. All right. I've handled numerous, probably hundreds of cases where people had their pictures taken. Well, I sent them to my boyfriend, and he later on put them on this other website, which I won't give you the name of it, but there are different sites where guys are going and posting these private moment pictures, and they're actually trading them like baseball cards. So, I mean, respect, as I said before, there is no respect. So everything that I talk about, everything that I base is, all right, we can't stop what's going on now, what's out there, but what we need to think about is where are we going with it. When I handled a case of a 9-year-old girl, 9 years old with an iPad, and she made a bunch of masturbation videos and sent them to somebody because they requested her, and the acts that she actually did, when you looked at it, this is not a typical actions of a 9-year-old girl, okay? These were actions that she saw, either that this person sent her videos or told her what to do. But the best thing about it is, in the background, you could hear her mother laughing, watching her stories. And not to say she's a bad mother, and not to say this is a bad young lady, but they're good kids doing bad things because other things that they're seeing, and a lot has to do with social media. All right? So, as I said before, lack of communication skills. Kids today, they'd rather be texting it than calling it. I mean, there's a completely different language. I'm still trying to figure out what exactly is the hookup, how far do you go with the hookup, and what is this talking bit? So I have 2 daughters, one 19, one 18, and the 18-year-old is dating someone, a very nice guy, for a year, and I read him the riot act, of course. The 19-year-old now is talking to somebody. What does that mean? Okay, so are you talking? Are you dating? And as I say, so are you guys going out? Yeah, I kind of guess so. I just remember saying, meeting someone, said, you want to go out, and things work out, and, maybe make the final move and say, will you be my girlfriend? So if anybody can maybe talk to me later on and tell me about this whole talking thing, so I sound like I know what I'm talking about. Lastly, addiction. There's so many videos, and what I would hope that, I have some resources, it was going to be one of the other slides. When you guys go home, just look up social media addiction. And you could see the progression, Like I said before, we used to watch these shows and have family dinners, like this family on top, and we would discuss. And maybe you would hear, how was school? Good. All right, I get it. I could deal with good than having their face buried in the phones. Probably about 5 years ago, as we went to my parents' house for, it was one of the holidays, the birthdays, and the kids took out the phones and saw my mother, she got really upset. And I'm trying to explain to you, but Ma, you don't understand, this is the way the kids, this is what they do, this is how they, you know what, as I'm saying, I'm trying to justify it, but it doesn't make it right. And now, how many years later, you go out to dinner, you go out to breakfast, anywhere you go, everybody's on that phone, all right? And it's great, but you know what? You could probably do some crazy stuff in front of people, they'll never know because their head is buried. So this is where we were, this is where we're going, and that's probably where we're going to be. Any Walking Dead fans here? Okay. So that's my zombie addiction picture that's killing us, all right? As I say, it's all great things as long as we respect it, all right? So you may say, how do we tell our kids to respect technology today? You know, I'm sure back in the day it used to be like, you know, stop staring at the window, pay attention. Now it's put the phone away, right? I know many schools have different policies, no phone policies. You can have them either in the cafeteria, they have to stay in the lockers, and there's always be that kid that sneaks it, I'm sure. I found that very interesting when I first learned about the frontal lobe. You know, when it's not developed, I think it's between 21 and 25. So when you'd say, why are you doing that? I don't know. Because they really don't know. They're not able to. I try to explain it to my kids, and you know, my son's 24, and he's still telling me, I don't know. So children, you know, what are they doing online? All right? What's important to them? The selfies, you know, I think that's Snapchat maybe. Is that Snapchat where you could do the different faces, animals, and all kinds of crazy stuff, right? And then you have kids who are posting drugs, weapons. Sadly to say, you know, now that's where all the kids are posting things either prior to going and doing these shootings. And, you know, that's what we're kind of taking notice to. And the idea is, you know what, if we were able to kind of see these postings or see, you know what, the escalation or the progression of violence, you know, the thing is, we can't get desensitized, we can't get just used to seeing them and say, well, that's just Billy. You know, he's not, that's a fake gun, that's an airsoft gun. You have to understand, if someone is comfortable with posting that, what else are they maybe capable of posting? Some of the concerns that we have with social media, okay, as parents. Again, my kids growing up, because what did I do for so long was, you know, kids, who are they talking to online? You know, as my son is playing an Xbox Live, who is that? That voice doesn't sound like he's 12 or 14 years old. You know, oh, that's so-and-so, oh, that's so-and-so, okay. You know, that's what, a big thing was important to me. Another thing is, which we're finding out, is how is this affecting a child's education or careers later on, all right? I said, I would love to be that investigator that sits in at universities, and when they bring somebody in, and they say, okay, well, we need to see your social media sites and go through it. You know, you pick out certain things, and you may want them, you may not want them at your university. So that's what the parents are thinking about. So I asked my daughter yesterday when I was just tweaking this and going through, I said, Carolyn, what are some things that maybe that kids are? And she definitely says, well, how many followers that we have. You know, some people, and that's now how I used to judge on my investigations. If somebody only had a few followers, you say, well, maybe it's a new profile, but maybe it's a bogus one too, or it's fictitious, so you don't want to accept them. Just a little side note for cybersecurity. How many likes and comments? You know, what are they saying about your stories? You know, why are you so concerned about this? Because it gives them that rush, that dopamine rush, as they talked about, all right? And you know, usually we don't know what that really was until you hear it and you learn it. Like, wow, I get it now, all right? And hiding the profiles from the parents. We dealt with a lot of kids who did have certain apps on their phones or their mobile devices where they were able to, like a vault, or there was it looks like you know, a calculator. But when you put a certain code in, it opens up to pictures. So it's hidden apps, and they can have everything in there. So something to think about. So you don't have to raise your hands, but I know that there is many, many school districts that are having a tremendous problem with sexting. After I retired, I'd gotten a call from, I won't say which school district, but it was a principal, and she told me that ninth grade boy had pictures, and you know, what should we do? How should we do it? And that's another whole thing. That's like, you know, legally you got to be careful as far as what you do in school. If Sarah comes to you and says, Johnny's got naked pictures on his phone of me, and Johnny's taking a math test, and now you bring Johnny down to the principal's office, and the principal says, Johnny, let me see your phone. Open it up, put your passcode in, let me see your pictures. You don't have any legal right to do that. Just to give you a heads up, I'm telling you right now, this is what I was trying to tell the schools. You know, as much as you want to get to it, the parents have to be there. Unless that kid is bought that phone himself, is paying their own bill, you don't have any legal right to do that. If you happen to see the kid looking at something and you visually see it, you do. And I don't want to go too much off it, but it's great that I actually have you guys here that I could say this. There is a difference in what is inappropriate and what is child pornography. All right, so in this case, which I wasn't working, I kind of told her, I says, this is what I would do, but I would also contact my old partner who is working. He'll be in on Monday. This was a Friday. And I says, I would be prepared. I said, if I would maybe speak to the kid and try to find out what kind of pictures were they. If they were just regular nudes of somebody, you know, posing in a mirror, that's not child pornography. It needs to be lewd and lascivious. If there's actually a sex act being created or being recorded, same thing for a boy. If a boy is standing in front of a mirror and he's flaccid, no. But if he's masturbating, if she's masturbating, these are child pornography pictures. Now the school is in possession of this. Another legal problem that may be is if you do see these pictures, you do not email them. I've had that in another school. I believe it was the principal emailed them to the superintendent. You don't. Okay, you call the police, and you need to preserve this for multiple reasons. One, you need to find out who those girls are, who those students are. They are victims. So I hate to say, from what I found out later on, that everything that I told this principal to do, she didn't do, and they wiped the phones. So now you have all these ninth grade girls that those pictures are flying all over the place. You're not going to be able to identify in this case. The idea is if you could stop it where it is, and I just did a stop the bleed thing, so that's like my new thing, stop the bleed. Do it right there and then. You know, you don't want to wait till it gets into the hands of some creepy looking guy like that. So again, if you guys come across that stuff, I put it down for later on. Please contact Nassau County Police Department Special Victims, and they will be able to help you. And I will say this, yes, did you have a... Did everybody hear the question? So basically, if someone does come, what should you do? Should you go run and call the police right away? What I would do is do a thorough interview at that point. How do you know there's pictures? Did somebody tell you that there's pictures? It goes back to that, you know, the witness of the car accident. So you saw what happened? Yeah, I was standing here and I heard this bang and I turned around. Did you actually see the pictures? What did you see? What was in those pictures? Do you know who they were? Okay, so now if it's on a Friday afternoon and say that that student is out, I would report it to the principal. If you are the principal, speak to the superintendent. I would actually build up some kind of guidelines for the school, for yourselves, okay, and then go through legal and everything else, and then contact that parent. Listen, if that parent now takes little Johnny at home and says, let me see your phone, and then deletes it, there's nothing you could do. But at least before you get that word out to somebody, if you could try to find out who were those pictures of, or how did they see it, or what was the content of it. If they happen to show you, they happen to show you. And then if it's anything like I described, I would take the phone then. Because if you call the police and then you say, well, someone showed me the phone and they described these pictures and I believe it to be child pornography, I think you have a right to protect that child and protect the victims that are on that phone as well. Then you could deal with it. And that's something I would then take back to your legal. Does that kind of answer your question? Okay, it's a little long-winded, but you really have to judge it. Try to get as much information as possible before you actually set that person loose or into the next period. All right, so as I say, as we're talking about, so what happens when lost boys and girls? what happens to them? And this is again how I say it's all connected. The bullying, the pictures. I'm sending pictures because I want to be loved. I want to be liked. I want to have so many followers. There's some people are really messed up out there. There's guys who are posing as girls so they can get pictures of boys to do things, and then they take them and you either make a new profile, and it's not just regular pictures. It's stuff like this. When I retired in July of 17, my partner was still working a case that was probably well over a year. Young girl that I think she was 13 at the time. She posted some pictures, didn't know who it was, and it came back to her, and the guy kept asking her to do more pictures and more videos. And again, we talked about the frontal lobe, making a good decision to go talk to your parents. Listen, not all kids, most kids don't have the greatest relationship with their parents because of that lack of communication skill. Maybe if they text it to them, they can get the information out. But the problem is, while this is going on, there is somebody out there that's creating these profiles or keeping these pictures and literally making a library of them. And again, I show this stuff to my kids because I said to my boys, don't you ever. I used to do my search warrants. I'd come home and I would say, Peter, please don't bring this to my house. If there's something going on, you have curiosity, you need to come speak to me. Speak to my girls. Constant, with the selfies, with the pictures. But what happens with that is everybody gets desensitized. It goes from the facial to the bikini to possibly the underwear. That's not a big deal. And either they feel very comfortable with the bodies or they don't feel comfortable, and then they're talked into taking these inappropriate pictures. And again, once you post it, you're never getting it back. And then you're dealing with somebody who's having feelings of suicide or self-harm. So, talk to your kids. You know what? And if you have that relationship with your students, that maybe they don't have that relationship with their own parents, use your judgment on what you say, but try to bring this stuff home to them. So, social media and kids, detecting when there's a problem. We all have crazy days, we all have busy days. Most of us probably do know our students or know our own kids, so you know when something's up, all right? What are some of the signs that they're being bullied if it's not a verbal thing? Or even if you see someone that's bullying, where is that going to go? Okay, so the physical signs of children calling out for help. I'm sure you all know that one that's always absent, doesn't have the greatest supervision, and I'm sure that you've come across kids who are cutting. So once I retired, I thought I wasn't going to see this anymore, but just last week I took a post at work. I was dealing with the psych area for children at Cohen's, and there was somebody there with the cut marks. And basically, my interaction with them wasn't for anything. I was there to help and kind of protect the medical staff. But of course, I'm listening to the mom speak, and I kind of get why this person is doing what they're doing. Again, maybe we're not all the greatest parents, maybe we didn't have the greatest parents, but as adults, as the ages that we are now, it's different than the kids are today. Okay, so I hate to say it, parents are great, but parents can really finish screwing up the kids. All right. So what do we do first? What do we do? Do we go back to our teachers? Do we go back to our principals, superintendents? As I said, stop the bleed. Seek out the source. Find out the information. Okay? Who's the student? Who's doing this? Who has the pictures? Who said that? Oh, come on. Don't worry. He didn't mean anything by that. You can't say that anymore. We have to take bullying and verbal abuse to a different level. I'm sure all schools are proactive. I know they have different workshops, but I think the biggest thing is, and part of the problem is, the teachers, and I know how overworked you guys are because my wife was a teacher for many, many years in Valley Stream. She had a great job. She resigned to raise the kids and now went back to being a preschool teacher about 8 years ago. I know it's very tough, but try to work with these kids. Try to learn more about what's going on in their personal lives, then you'll know how to deal with the parents. There's many parents who are so tied up in social media, they're just as bad as the kids, but they're adults. They're posting more things than the kids are. All right, so what are some of the things we could do? As we said, know your children, know who you're talking to, okay? Know the risks that they may take. You know, some kids, you'd be surprised. You'll think that they would never do certain things. I've learned that in my own family. You know, my kids did a couple of things that I was like completely shocked. Try to share accounts with your kids. My daughters and I share, well, I'm friends with them on their Instagram. Am I looking at it all the time? No, I go through it. I'd be lying to you if I said that I spend every day going through. I hope that I taught them enough to kind of respect themselves and they know how to post and what not to post, right? Set up time usages. There's you know, different sites that you can go on that you can set up a schedule. And again, we need to do this as our children are young so we start good habits. You know, it's very hard to break a bad habit. I'm sure a lot of us know that, all right? And as I say, be a parent first. I'm very close with my kids, but I'm a parent first. I want to be, my house is the hangout house. I love it. They bring the friends, the boyfriends. They all know my wife and myself, all the friends. And I also see the times when my girls stay home on the weekend because other things are going on that they know that I don't want them involved in. So I know that I'm doing a good job with being a parent with that. All right, social networking websites, policies, as I said before, a lot of them have, usually it's about you have to be 13 to have, build a profile. So when you have these things that these kids are saying, yeah, I got this profile, some of if I had all day, I could probably sit here and rattle off all the apps that are bad. I could tell you right now, one of the worst ones was Kik. You guys ever come across Kik, K-I-K? Okay, that's what we dealt with a lot of, they were based out of Canada, but they actually were very good with getting us our information, our legal information as far as subpoenas. But for some reason, kids were drawn to that. They'd start on a different platform and end up going to Kik, and that's where a lot of the pictures were exchanged. Anybody, the little thing on the bottom, I'll love you forever, my baby will be. Anybody read that book? Come on. If you didn't read that book, you should read it. As I was going through trying to find the pictures, I started to tear up to see the guy holding the mother, you know, because now she's old. So I remember when we first got my 24-year-old that book, and we read that to him. All right. Bullying. We could talk about bullying forever. It's here to stay. It's just on a different level, right? When we were growing up, you'd have a fight, maybe it would be over. But now on the social networking, on the apps, there's no reprieve from it. What goes on at home over the weekends, I hate to say it, you guys are probably dealing with the stuff from the weekends and from summer camps and everything else when they come back to school. So, you know, the idea is, what do we do with this? To try to stop it, or do we try to learn from it and then get kids? And the thing is, as you see, sometimes there's these videos of these kids doing great things, like they're all going out for gun control, and they have the same things that they're doing for bullying. But it's never going to change. We just need to work with our kids a little bit better. So some effects of bullying, as you see, as young as they may be, words hurt, especially words that they don't understand. And with the idea that the communication skills are lacking now, they don't get it. I mean, there's times now that something my kid will send me, I'm like, what do they mean by that? It's a completely different language. And if you haven't ever seen cutting, that's what cutting looks like, okay? And they start to self-harm. Signs of bullying: loneliness, fear, hate, no self-worth. Maybe you'll have more people that will send inappropriate pictures because they're so desperate to be liked. And going back to the beginning, what do we tell people? If there's bullying going on, don't confront it. Don't keep fighting it. Don't. You know, if someone's saying something bad, the more that you're empowering that bully, the more they're going to keep doing it. But we have to find a way to help our victims. The Amanda Todd story, for some reason, there are so many kids that have committed suicide. When I first started doing some presentations and I came across Amanda Todd, it makes me so sad every time. If you don't know Amanda Todd's story, maybe go on Google, go on YouTube, and you'll find basically all these pictures around here. She did this video of her doing her postcards. It was right before she ended up killing herself, and she was bullied. So look up that story.
Very different feeling today in a city in Alberta. In Airdrie, it was a day to celebrate everyone through tiny but uplifting messages. And as Carolyn Dunn tells us, the idea came from a student who chose to fight back against bullying.
For Caitlin Prater-Hackey, a sandwich bag full of positive Post-it notes is like an arsenal against bullying.
You're cute, you're beautiful, you look amazing today, I love you.
One for every locker of every student at her high school.
And it takes 2 seconds and it shows somebody that you really care.
Caitlin's positive note campaign came from a very dark moment 10 days ago. Someone posted a message on her Facebook feed urging her to die. Caitlin's mother saw it first.
I read the post and honestly I felt like throwing up.
Caitlin didn't get even, she got positive, wallpapering school lockers with inspirational messages on Post-it notes. It was a hit with fellow students, but not so much her high school. She was reprimanded, those positive sticky notes seen as nothing more than a source of litter. Of course, that only sparked a movement in Airdrie, Positive Post-it Note Day. Even Airdrie City Council passed a resolution supporting it.
Positive begets positive, so we were excited to support it.
So is Jennifer Ferguson, who posted positive affirmations for all her bank colleagues.
Really inspired by her story and what she did at her school in support of anti-bullying. I wanted to spread that around here at the branch.
Financial advisor Christina Wienink is sparkling a little brighter today because of the positive Post-its she got.
It's really neat to understand maybe your own personal impact on somebody else that you're not aware of.
So are all the others whose positive Post-its are starting to make their way onto social media. And yes, there are plenty for the teenager who started it all. Carolyn Dunn, CBC News, Calgary.
So there's great ideas that can be done for bullying. And I think more kids will be inspired the more you bring it out. There's always going to be that one kid that, you know, I call the lost boy or the lost girl, all right? Either if they don't have it in them, to try to empower them, to try to, you know, do something like this. You know, try to work with them the best you can. So, to kind of finish up, so I want to say, excuse me. So what did we learn about ourselves, about social media? Hopefully, again, what I want to do is kind of spark some things in your own lives. Something that you think you know, like this morning, I thought I knew a lot more, but I learned from Don sitting here. About myself just as a man. I mean, how do I feel? You know, the idea is think before you do certain things with social media. And again, because if you do good things, you'll teach good things. Some of the resources, again, I have down here was for the missing kids, which is National Center for Missing Exploited Children. A couple of slideshows that were really good that were done actually by educators, because who knows the kids best but you. Okay? I met kids on a different level when they have already become victims. You kind of maybe were able to prevent a child from being a victim of a bullying, of some kind of social abuse. All right? Also, I put down the number for Nassau County Special Victims. The reason why I put that down and just, you know, not your local police department, whatever precinct it may be, is because I will say this. Nassau County Police Department is probably one of the greatest police departments in the world, hands down. But they do so much with so few. So not all detectives, not all police officers are trained. We're all trained to do certain things, but we have our own little specialties. In Nassau County, there still remains only 2 investigators that handle child exploitation cases in all of Nassau County. So if you would call the 5th precinct and you deal with a 5th squad detective, they may say, yeah, well, you know, bring that phone in and we'll send it to electronics, we'll do this. Call Special Victims and ask for the Internet Predator. I think they call them now themselves, the Internet Predator Unit, and they will tell you what to do. They'll be able to tell you maybe what you should do with that phone. And this is for, you know, high level. This is for your superintendents, for your principals, you know, what to do with that. And again, if it's on a Friday, you know, call, and I'm sure that somebody can get called in, or at least they could tell you what to do to preserve evidence and help any of the kids that are victims. I think that is it. Now that I bored the hell out of you. Okay. The idea is you have lunch now, right? If anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to take them if you want to go off to do lunch. All right? Enjoy the rest of your day.